Well, hello all you fine people out there in YouTube land. This is a Texas special, and what you see before you is the first MTH steam locomotive in the collection. It is not mine, it is my son's. It is lettered for the Alaska Railroad, as you can see there on the tender, number 315. This came from the Alaska Railroad gift shop. It was a very generous gift from my mother for him, and again, as I said, first ever MTH steamer in the collection. This is an 060 Imperial USRA steam switcher. Features a die-cast boiler, a die-cast chassis, and the tender body is also die-cast metal. I'm not big on Alaska Railroad, so I can't testify as to the authenticity of the paint scheme, but we'll go with it. That right there you see is the fireman. There is an engineer figure on the other side of the cab, posed in a position as though he's opening the throttle or closing it. All of the handrails you can see on this locomotive, for instance, this right here and right here, are separately applied metal details that give it a very nice detailed and finished look. The whistle, pop-off valve, and bell are also separately applied details that are metal. The bell does not move, which, you know, that's not a big deal. It's got some nice decoration here as far as the piping to the air compressor and water pumps and all that fun stuff, the injectors. It's molded on, it's cast on detail also here on the firebox that you can see here, but this isn't a top of the line super realistic, high level model. All of the wheels and axles are metal, and they've been chemically darkened to kill the metallic sheen, I guess you could say. All of the drive rods and everything here is also of metal construction that's been chemically darkened, which I do like a lot actually, versus, as much as I hate to say it, most Lionel steamers, especially what would be a comparable version to this, come with regular undarkened, just bright shiny silver metal wheels on the drivers and on the drivetrain. You can't see it, but there is right in here roughly a precision motor with a flywheel. This engine has Proto-Sound 3.0, which is synchronized with the fan-driven smoke unit, and it also has electro couplers on the front and rear, which I don't run DCC, so you won't see those in use today. The MTH digital command system is on board this locomotive, and this engine measures 17.5 inches long, 2 7/8 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall. Minimum operating radius for this engine is listed as 031 curvature. Now, something that I really like about this engine is just the level of detail. The separately applied handrails, for starters, that goes a long way for the authenticity of it. Right here on the trucks you can see there's little chains attached. It has arch bar style trucks with the frictionless bearings, and the headlight on the tender as well as the headlight on the actual locomotive itself both work. This unit does have directional lighting. Right here we're looking at the underside of the tender. The little screw you see here is the smoke adjustment. If you turn it counterclockwise, that reduces the amount of smoke the engine puts out less and less until obviously you hit off. And the more you open it, the more it puts out. Right here, this one on the bottom, that is the sound volume adjustment. And counterclockwise, same deal. You rotate it counterclockwise, that turns it down until you turn it off. Very easy. This would be where the DCC switch is, but thinking back on it, I don't think this engine's actually equipped with it. DCC. So that's the underside of the tender, and there are no controls of any sort underneath the underside of the engine. Right here, you're looking at the drawbar of the engine. MTH does ship this with an extra one, and to detach it, you push straight down and it releases a pin and socket arrangement that is very similar to the electronic tether you saw on a lot of old school trains. There you see the other side of it. And to reattach it, you line up that square peg with that square hole, push up firmly until it is in place. And this is the interior shot of the cab and the back wall of the boiler and firebox. You can see it's kind of minimal detail. This right here, this little clear thing right here, that's an LED. When the engine's in neutral, it comes on and it lights up the cab. There you see the fireman, the engineer. You got a little bit of detailing, mostly cast on detailing here. You got the firebox, the controls that open and close the firebox, some piping, minimal detail. But then again, this isn't a high dollar, premier locomotive. This is from MTH's Rail King line. So for a engine that is on the, what I guess you could call the cheaper side, this is actually pretty good detailing. Okay, right now we're looking on the inside of the cab. I have to film this on a curve so you can actually see inside of it. That's the little LED. Right now the engine is in neutral.
Check on that water level, will you?
And before I was interrupted by the engineer there, you can also see this little red flicker right in here. That is firebox glow, and if you move the engine, you can see the pulsating there as actually synchronized with the exhaust rate of the engine and the sound system. If you are like me and you don't have a lot of experience with MTH locomotives, I'm first and foremost primarily a Lionel guy. Not saying MTH has bad products or inferior products. They do make good stuff, and if I'm going to spend the money you spend in this hobby, I'd much rather just buy Lionel because that's what I like. But if you are, like I said, if you're like me and you're primarily a Lionel guy and you don't do a whole lot of time messing with MTH products, something you need to keep in mind is there is a capacitor inside of these Proto Sound 3.0 equipped locomotives that when you turn it on the very first time and apply power to it, it takes it anywhere from, the instruction manual said 5 to 20 seconds for the engine to fully power up, because it allows that capacitor to charge up, and that capacitor functions the exact same as the 9-volt battery in a rail sound or train sound equipped Lionel locomotive. It helps cover continuity of sound and the shutdown sequences that the locomotive sound system has. And like I said, running over dirty track, it also helps smooth out some of the intermittent, cutouts in power and loss of sound effects you would have if the battery were not otherwise there. Well, like I said, that capacitor serves the same purpose. And because of that capacitor, unlike a Lionel engine that will just fire right up, very first time you apply power to it, it takes a little bit for the engine to kind of just wake up. And once that's been accomplished, then the sound system will go through a startup sequence and you'll be ready to run the engine. I'll demonstrate for you right here. Power's on, headlights on, showing it has power. And there's the very, very simplistic startup sequence for the engine. One thing I do absolutely love about this engine is this fan-driven smoke unit, which I know a lot of Lionel units have as well, especially the higher priced ones that most of us can't afford. But as you can see, it's putting out a pretty good amount of smoke there just sitting. This engine is a real good performer in the smoke department, and very impressed with it. Sound system also has an excellent sound quality to it. Here's the whistle. A little bit more shrill and high pitched than I would prefer, but again, the Alaska Railroad is kind of an oddity to me, so I don't really know exactly what their locomotive whistles sounded like, so I'm going to just go with that. You can hear the compressors and the injectors there. There's a lot of very realistic sounds. Here's the bell. I really like that bell. Alright. Now, unlike Lionel, as you can tell, when you apply power to a Lionel locomotive in conventional AC, the very first time you turn it on, the reverser starts out in forward, and then it transitions to neutral when you kill the power and turn it back on. If you repeat the process, it goes into reverse.
Send out the dog catcher if we don't stay on schedule.
And like the Lionel sound system, this also has pre-recorded radio dialogue, or as Lionel calls it, crew talk. But anyways, the Lionel reverser sequence is forward, neutral, reverse, neutral, and back to forward. MTH, they start out in neutral, and if you interrupt the power and turn it back on, forward, repeat the process, you're back in neutral, one more time, and you are in reverse. Okay, right now I'd like to take the opportunity to show you that directional lighting. Forward. The engine is now in neutral. The rear headlight coming on is just a quick visual indicator to tell you, hey, next time you're going to apply power to this engine, it's going to take off in reverse. So we'll cut the power and turn it back on. You can see the headlight brighten there, and it goes in reverse. Overall, a very good engine. Now, enough with the boring technical stuff. Let's run this thing.